Hey, welcome to Just Off Harbor. Today we're talking about dining. This is kind of a broad topic that we're going to kind of break down for you. We're going to discuss character dining, dining packages for things like parades or World of Color. We're going to talk to you about where to find quick snacks in the park. We're going to kind of talk about mobile order a little bit and go over just some of the tips that you need to know when to book your reservations for dining. All of that is right here. So let's get started.
Okay. So the biggest question is people want to know how to get their dining reservations. If they need dining reservations, how many? All of that's really important when planning your trip and budgeting as well. So you can start booking your dining reservations 60 days in advance. So these start to become available. It's a little weird. It used to be that it was like 60 days in advance, 6 a.m. It's always going to be there. Sometimes
Everything's there.
Yeah, sometimes they drop a little bit weird, which is frustrating when you really have something that's important to you. But if you're diligent and if you pay attention and keep checking back with the app, you can usually get whatever thing that you're hoping to get.
Usually. There's a few super tricky ones. And I feel like we're pretty good at this point about snagging everything that we want. But some of those are elusive. Blue Bayou can be really elusive. Lamplight can sometimes be hard to get a time that you're happy about. And Trader Sam's is like invisible.
Impossible.
I feel like it's like a ghost. It's not actually a thing. I think I've only ever even seen reservations for that maybe like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Ever. So don't rely on that one. But we're going to go over some of our favorites. Should we go by park a little bit? Or do we want to
Sure.
go by like category of food?
Maybe let's do park.
Okay. So let's start in DCA. So California Adventure, there's not a ton of reservation options available. There's a few sit down places. One is Wine Country Trattoria. That one you're probably able to pretty much get a reservation anytime you want for. And it's kind of like an underrated restaurant in my opinion. I feel like people are always like it's just kind of like eating an Olive Garden, but I feel like it's way better than Olive Garden.
Delicious.
And it's not crazy pricing. Like most meals are $30 or less. And so I feel like it's not like a huge wallet,
They've
issue.
got good kids options.
Yes.
Which a lot of places kind of struggle with kids, but I feel like they have a lot of really good
they've
kid
got like I
choices.
think they have a kids salmon option if I'm not mistaken, as well as a pizza and a pasta option. And my kids are always really happy. You pick 2 sides. They can get lots of things, like grapes or fries or whatever to go with it, and you get a drink. And anyway, so Wine Country is kind of like a hidden gem for us. We usually go away happy. And I'm not going to say it's like the most like, wow, I can't believe that's the best restaurant we've ever eaten at in our whole life. It's satisfying.
It's a good, solid, real food option
Yeah.
when you've been surrounded by burgers and fries.
Yeah. So that's Wine Country. And then you've got one of our favorites, Lamplight Lounge.
I love it
This
there.
one is a little harder to get into. The reservations for it typically go within 24-ish hours or less of them being dropped. There's a couple things to note. One is brunch is only served Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you're wanting brunch, which is kind of one of its main like things that it's known for, try to plan it into one of your weekend days on your trip. They serve things like French toast and
They always have a really good
eggs Benedict, and what's the one, the chilaquiles, and they have really good drinks like cocktails and stuff like that are like sort of brunchy cocktails and mimosa flights and things like that. So it's really fun. It's one of the most themed locations in the parks, I feel
Yeah.
like. You overlook the pier and the water, and
Hear the Incredicoaster going by.
Yeah.
It's just a really fun vibe.
Yes. So Lamplight, if you're getting one reservation, I feel like Lamplight's the one you should maybe prioritize. And their dinner menu is good too. I just prefer their brunch menu.
The brunch is great. If you do dinner, it's definitely kind of a fun one to do. If you can grab a late reservation, like a 7 or 8 p.m. situation, you can actually stay and watch World of Color when it goes off. So that's kind of exciting. You can sit and enjoy that after your meal. We always like the nachos at dinner time. We like to get a little drink and just kind of enjoy the nighttime atmosphere.
Their fries are amazing. They have these
good
like
French
beer
fries.
battered fries that are just like, and sometimes I just order a side of fries because I love them. So
The other option thing is they do have a walk-up option. So if you are ever just, especially with kind of a small group, you can often get in pretty quick. You can either sit at the bar if you've got
Not
guests
children,
over 21. So if you've got kind of a small group and you weren't able to get a reservation, you can walk up. We typically try to do that first thing in the morning, even if you're wanting to come in a little bit later and see what their availability is. Sometimes they can get you something for later, or they get you on a list for pretty soon.
The other thing is it used to be that reservations had to be dropped within 24 hours of the reservation. So everyone would kind of watch the day before their trip for things to sort of get dropped. But now it's up to 2 hours before. And so if you're wanting to, like, I even check sometimes first thing in the morning when we wake up on a random Saturday, and I'll see Lamplight One sitting there that people have dropped for that morning. So definitely just be diligent about it. You can also sign up for dining alerts from like Mouse Dining and some of those like that. That will send you alerts when things get dropped. But diligence pays off in these situations. I feel like we hardly ever just flat out can't get what we want.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I know we kind of talked about morning and night, but another thing about dining reservations is midday reservations are lovely because it's hot and you're usually getting kind of tired. So really all day there's a purpose for each of these reservations, whether it's you want the brunch or you want a break. Like we just really enjoy a dining option. Dining in Disneyland is a little different than in Disney World. It's not quite as like the most like it's not quite as huge of a part of your trip. But a dining reservation a couple of days on your trip, maybe not every single day. But just kind of plan, like, pick a couple ones that you feel like are most important to you when you are picking things.
Yep, for sure.
That was a side note.
So
but
are
is that
those
all
the only,
the sit-down dining options? There is Carthay Circle as well.
Oh,
Carthay Circle is that big tall building right as you walk up Buena Vista Street. It's a really fun themed, like original, like Walt.
It's beautiful inside.
So it's very much like nostalgic, but it's fancy fare. It's not necessarily like your most like kid-friendly option. Usually it takes quite a while because everything's nicer and fancy and slowed down. So if you're on like a couple's trip or something, absolutely go have like date night at Carthay Circle, but it's not as like family friendly as like Lamplight or even Wine Country.
Yeah. We made the mistake of taking our kids at Christmas last year. I'd never been before and we managed to get a reservation. I was like, let's just do it. We had it was I think our arrival night and we didn't really have Genie Plus or anything going on. We're like, let's just do it. And I mean, it was fine. I loved being there. Like I said, or like you said, it's beautiful inside. My kids were not happy. Like the kids menu was too fancy. It was quite expensive. The service was really slow. The bathrooms are kind of far away from the dining area. So you have to kind of like take each kid. Like I felt like it was a whole ordeal. It didn't feel family friendly. It feels like you're going for cocktails with your boyfriend. That's what it feels like. And if you're not doing that, maybe skip it. And honestly, if you're going to spend that much money on a high-end thing, go to Blue Bayou because your kids will enjoy it a lot more.
Or do a character dining.
Yeah, or a character
something
dining.
that, like, once you're getting that expensive.
Yeah. I don't know. This is just your warning. And I'm saying that lovingly because some people love Carthay Circle and the food is impressive. It's just
and if you're a foodie,
expensive.
Like and we're a little like bland palatey when it comes to fancy stuff, so that's also doesn't go in our favor.
Yeah. So I think that's all. You can at Grand Californian, which is connected to DCA, there's like Napa Rose, which is kind of a fancy, again, sort of sit down, enjoy your wine kind of location. And you can get reservations at Craftsman Bar and Grill.
That's right by the pool. It's a fun vibe. There's live music a lot of the time.
And you can get like whole pizzas for your family or like nachos to share. And it's definitely a little bit more like bar and grill type place. But I feel like the food is quite shareable. So that's kind of a okay option too. But that's the DCA side. There's really
also Storytellers Cafe, which is character breakfast in the morning. It's in the Grand Californian Hotel. In the morning, it's characters, buffet, breakfast, and through brunch. And then in the evening, there's no characters, but it is buffet dinner. So
and
again,
sometimes they have
option.
With the storytellers at dinner, they have dining packages, which we'll go back and talk about later. But that's one location that they will sometimes do something like a World of Color preferred viewing area and things like that for storytellers. So that's definitely an option. Reservations are definitely needed for the morning character breakfast. I feel like evening, it's a little bit easier to just kind of grab them or walk up because it's a little bit more buffet style and not as sought after without the characters. But yeah, I think that's all on that side, unless you go over to Pixar Place where there's like Great Maple and stuff like, I think it's basically Great Maple. And that's kind of...
I consider that a little more on the downtown Disney, outside of the parks.
Yeah,
stuff,
I guess so. I guess because you like exit and enter, you can come through the DCA side. I still think of it as like a Great Maple, a DCA option. Situation. But it's, again, kind of expensive. It's sort of an investment of time. You have to like walk off property, like Britton said, and come back on. But it is there if you're looking for like more of a fancy, different thing than the burger situation. So that's the DCA half. So let's walk across the Esplanade and talk about Disneyland.
There's a few more options in Disneyland than in DCA, but not a lot. Your first one is you walk up Main Street is Carnation Cafe. This one's a really fun one for us. The availability is pretty open.
Especially for lunch. It's a little harder at breakfast, I feel like.
But they have good breakfast. They have great dinner. They have fried pickles. And the potato soup is not something you should sleep on ever.
Potato soup.
It's right there on Main Street. There's indoor and outdoor dining. So sometimes if you get a good spot outside, you can see the parade go by if you're there at the right time of day, or just the Disneyland band or the Dapper Dans, or like it's very like vibey. Main Street vibey, which is really fun. So we always like a good Carnation Cafe.
I will never say no to Carnation Cafe. Yeah, I like it.
The next one is, as you're going around, which is probably the hardest reservation to get of all the places in the park, would be Blue Bayou Restaurant, right? So that's the restaurant that when you're riding Pirates of the Caribbean, you see everybody dining and you wave at them and feel like you're looking at, like, you're waving at the beautiful people. But Blue Bayou is like fancy steaks, fish,
kind of
lobster, Cajun-y food. It's probably the most expensive dining reservation, but it's also kind of an experience. It's fun to be there by the pirates ships going by. If you want a spot by the water, definitely like ask the host when you check in, be like, is there a spot by the water?
And if a spot by the water is important, another way to kind of help guarantee it is getting like the first reservation of the day, or the first reservation of, do they split for dinner service? I can't remember now if they stop in between. Anyway, sure. I think they open at 11, and I've had good luck making an 11 o'clock and when I check in, say, this is important to me. Because a lot of times the worst time is like 11:30 or whatever, because they've sat all of those and nothing is even close to getting up or whatever. So just kind of think about that. If you're like, this is my once in a lifetime situation, think about it. And even tell them like, I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to whatever, because that is really fun to be up against the water.
So that's when you probably would want either a mouse dining alert on, or be up just checking like all day, the day of your 60-day
right
before.
And I mean, in theory, 60 days out at around 6 a.m. or is it 7 a.m. Pacific, which is 6 a.m. our time. Maybe I think it's 7 a.m. Pacific. Just set an alarm for, whatever that is in your time zone. And plan to be on right then. And I've seen it drop on time. It's just that sometimes, and I feel like Lamplight's worse about this. Like, I feel like Blue Bayou typically does drop on time, but Lamplight sometimes is like a few days after. I don't know why they're like that. But don't assume just because nothing's there, especially if you're on right at the beginning, that they're gone. They're probably not gone. If there's nothing, it's not up yet. If there's no times. So just don't panic. Don't panic. So there's that. And then you got like Cafe Orleans, which is a similar situation to Blue Bayou, but your price point's less. It's less themed, but it offers a pretty similar menu overall.
Yeah.
So
I had maybe one of my best meals of my life there not too long ago.
It was like life-changing. She's talked about it more than once.
We were starving, which may have been part of it. But it was like their pot roast, and it was just like, it like melted in your mouth, and the potatoes were delicious, and the carrot, they're baby carrots anywhere. If there's baby carrots,
they're
delicious.
I know, they're like roasted.
So it was just really good. But Cafe Orleans is a great option. It's right there kind of across from the Rivers of America where you can just kind of enjoy atmosphere a little bit. It's a great option. The
River Bell?
River Bell. It was like
I knew
I
where
had
you were
Royal
going,
in my head, and that was not right. River Bell is also, this is kind of interesting about Disneyland, that Blue Bayou, Cafe Orleans, and River Bell all have kind of similar food options. And
Along with Tiana's Palace now,
yeah.
which is not a sit down.
But-
There's like 5 places to get like
And Royal Street
Cajun, New
Veranda.
Orleans. Yeah. And I mean, I get it. I get that that's a themed area
Yeah.
for them, but like that's a lot of Cajun food for a lot of little children. Like, I just feel like my kids never, they want the chicken fingers and the, you know, pizza and the hot dogs and the like basic theme park food. And so all those places when we go with our kids are just like a bummer for them,
Yeah.
which is hard because it's a theme park for kids mostly, you know.
But River Bell, it typically has like the Fantasmic dining packages. It's just kind of a fun little like place to go sit.
They
Sometimes
serve
it's
breakfast now.
Oh yeah.
Not always. Sometimes they offer it and sometimes they don't. I feel like for windows of time. But right now they're offering it, and
There's
they have
also
like
indoor and outdoor
pumpkin
seating.
pancakes right now.
Oh,
Remember?
pumpkin pancakes.
So yeah, indoor outdoor seating. It's like a solid 7 out of 10. I feel like. I feel like reservations are easier to get.
It's a
for
good
it.
option for when it's hot and you want to sit inside and have a good afternoon dining reservation where you sit for a while and enjoy your meal.
The worst part about River Bell is there's no bathroom.
Yes,
That's the worst
That
part.
is the worst part.
So if you want to go to the bathroom, you have to leave and go up to the Adventureland restrooms, which are around like over by the tiki room kind of, or you have to go to the Zocalo bathrooms, which are down kind of between Cafe Zocalo and
Or clear over to like French Quarter. Like it's like
like up to Mint Gillette bathrooms. It's not.
It's just not great.
I don't know why that is,
I don't know.
but whatever. So I'm not saying River Bell's not a great option. It is. It's
an
just
option.
not my top option. Especially like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, River Bell's it. Like choose Cafe Orleans, honestly. Choose Plaza before you go to River Bell.
The only other reservation place in Disneyland is Oga's Cantina. Yeah, so Oga's
so.
Cantina is that kind of fun bar vibe over in Galaxy's Edge. They do have some food, like more like appetizer-y kind of stuff, like pretzel bites and like little Star Wars-y food things that you don't really know what they are, but they're food.
You just need something to absorb your drink.
And drinks.
That's all.
So that's an option that you can get a reservation way ahead of time, or there's also a walk-up option there as well.
I feel like it's pretty consistently not too hard at this point.
Not too hard to get a spot.
Yeah.
There is also a walk-up option at Blue Bayou.
Which again, you want to be there right at 11 when they open to
But
get on
I've
that
also
list.
had no problem getting in we were considering going at 2 in the afternoon one time.
But did you walk up at 2 in the afternoon? Interesting.
And they were like, we can get in 20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've always felt
So-
like even if you want a reservation at any point that day, you really need to prioritize going and saying, do you have any spots today?
I mean, maybe it depends on your
So.
your group size and everything. Maybe a 4-top was easier than a 6-top to grab at 2 in the afternoon. But yeah, they were going to let us in, but we actually weren't ready to eat at that time. We were actually hoping they would
like
say
an
come back at
evening
4,
one? Yeah.
you know? But it was like 2:30 or something. And then we were like, never mind. And then we got into trouble with the Cafe Orleans thing where we were like, well, it was 4 o'clock and we're like, okay, well, maybe now we're ready. And
And then it was like
it was
7
like
o'clock.
7 before we got to eat.
Whoopsies.
Which was fine. We'd put our name on the list. They'd said like 6 or 6:30 or something. And we went and did other stuff. And when we came back, it was still, we waited for like another 45 minutes before they sat us. And then they didn't seat us they didn't
Well, this
take
is
our
an
order for
important-
like another half
This
hour.
is an
and then
important lesson,
it was
though.
a
What
whole
she's
thing.
saying right here is important to know. And that is, this is why having multiple sit-down dining reservations on your trip is not a good idea. Because it is a time suck. If you, even under the best of circumstances, it's going to take you pretty much an hour and a half of your day to do a full sit-down situation. And So you have to be ready to commit that. It's got to be either your afternoon break, like you're doing it in
Where you're like
place of a
happy
break.
to sit
Yes.
and take whatever amount of time.
Right. Don't ever do it if you feel like you've got little kids that are just gonna be like, when are we going on another ride? When are we whatever? And they're like not even enjoying themselves. Just plan to grab some chicken fingers and move on with your day because
really
the
all the
dining is
sit-down
only fun
dining-
if you're enjoying yourself.
And
you
all the
know?
sit down dining really is fancier. Really more than outside of, I would say, Lamplight Lounge. That's a little atmosphere-y, a little more like
And Wine
enjoyable
Country.
for the kids.
Wine Country's a
too.
little more like
I feel like all of the Disneyland stuff in general is like you're kind of in a space that's not necessarily that entertaining. There's nothing like early like bread service or things like that where you're like able to entertain your people. You get kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And so unless you're
especially
really
the New
enjoying
Orleans
it,
one. I feel like Carnation Cafe is not a horrible kid option. I feel like
Yeah.
they've got like a little slider for the like a little
Well,
burger.
and again, if you're
and
outside, you're
shakes
seeing
and
the horses
things.
go by and the,
Yeah.
and the singers, and you're like, there's more.
It's those like dark New Orleans restaurants, Carthay Circle. Like those are the ones I would say just skip with your kids. But speaking of kids, let's talk about character dining because that's really the thing that the kids want is the character dining. Okay, so you've got 3 different character dining options at Disneyland, and I've done all of them more than once, and I will tell you my opinions. Here they are. Storytellers is my favorite. And the reason Storytellers is my favorite, by the way, it's in California or Grand California, and it's the one we talked about earlier that has the buffet at night. Storytellers is my favorite because you can do it on a non-park day. So you can do it on an arrival day or a departure day because you don't need a park ticket in order to go to the restaurant. I also like it because it serves food that's a little bit more like upscale for adults, but there's still plenty of kids options. So there's things for adults like chilaquiles. You can order like made to order omelets. Sometimes they have some seafood options mixed in. And then on top of that, they have the standard Mickey waffles and French toast and cereal and all the things that kids want to eat as well. I also love that they're in their cute like explorer costumes. You're going to find Mickey, Minnie, Chip and Dale and Pluto. That's who's usually there. And they're in outfits you're not going to find anywhere else in the park. So they're not wearing like their normal park stuff. It's kind of a fun, unique feeling because of that. So I love Storytellers. And I also like that you can, if you choose a little bit later reservation for Storytellers, you get additional options on your menu. Like if you choose, there's like breakfast, and then there's brunch. And when you choose the brunch spot, I think it's only like $3 more or something. It's very minimally more to move to brunch, but it means you can go in the morning to DCA and rope drop if you want, and then go take a break around 11ish or whatever and have sort of like early lunch, late breakfast. And you get access to those additional food items that are a little bit more on the lunchy end. My husband loves that. Like the men like that because it's a little more filling. It's got more meat involved, that kind of stuff, than some of the more like full breakfast where it's a lot more like muffins and bagels and that kind of thing. So that's Storytellers. Do you want to talk about Plaza?
Yeah. So Plaza Inn is a really similar situation to Storytellers. It's breakfast only. But it's inside of Disneyland. So you have to have a Disneyland ticket and a Disneyland reservation for the morning. Don't start in DC and be like, well, hop. You need to be able to like be in the park in the morning. So Plaza Inn, this is a really fun one because this is like classic characters. This is classic Mickey and Minnie. You have characters like the fairy godmother show up, and like different who else? Tigger and Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Like really, really
You get more like
Disneyland.
and you get more rare characters sometimes. Like I've seen Max there. The little mice from Cinderella, different people that you don't catch in normal situations. Mickey isn't there, by the way.
Oh,
so
Minnie.
It's only Minnie, and she
friends.
doesn't typically wander. She's usually just as you enter, they'll do a photo with her. I've seen Captain Hook there. I've seen Rafiki there. So a little bit more weird.
Like more like Fantasyland options. With your classic characters, but they have all your classic breakfast, which and again buffet style. Mickey waffles, French toast, all of that sort of like classic breakfast stuff.
Yeah.
So
I also like that Plaza has really good lighting because you've got all that morning light coming in all those windows. Plus there's outdoor seating. But I feel like if you're into getting like good pictures of your kids with the characters and stuff like that, that Storytellers falls short in that category because it's really yellowy and like the whole atmosphere is quite woodlandy and dark everywhere. Plaza's a lot more light and bright and colorful. And I feel like some of my favorite pictures I've ever taken of my kids at Disneyland have been at Plaza Breakfast with those characters.
The only downside to Plaza is you are doing it on a park day. And in the morning. So morning hours when you could be doing a lot of rides and stuff, you're like sitting and committing, which is why we actually try to grab something more like a 9:30-ish situation, so you can still rope drop. You can still spend your morning in Fantasyland or doing whatever rides that you possibly can first thing with rope drop. And then you're sitting, and we encourage this with breakfast always. For everything. Yeah. Rope drop, spend an hour at least doing some like rides and doing all that first thing, and then eat. Because you'll waste so much of your morning time if you go right in and start eating. But, so yeah, try to grab a reservation for like 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's a great time to sit and enjoy that dining option.
It's a fun one. And like I said, I feel more bad about it because it feels like you're sucking your morning out. For some reason, more than Storytellers, like even when I rope drop at DCA and go to Storytellers, and maybe it's because Plaza doesn't go as late. I think their reservations stop at like 10 a.m. and Plaza's go till Storytellers goes to like 1.
Yeah.
So
you're almost into like afternoon break time.
Right.
You don't feel bad.
Right. So the third option is Goofy's Kitchen. And we've done this. I've actually never done Goofy's Kitchen breakfast, although it exists. I
didn't even know it existed for a long time because most people talk about
it for dinner. Because it's the only character dining option that is offered at dinner. And this is a great option for a travel day because a lot of times, like when we drive in from Utah, for instance, we'll arrive at 4 p.m. or whatever. We'll be starving. We can't go in the park that night. And so we check into our hotel and we mosey over for a 5:30 dining reservation and everyone's
spend
hungry.
As much time as you want.
And there's no pressure to be done. Yeah. So I love Goofy's Kitchen for that reason. I gotta say, the first couple times I went to Goofy's Kitchen, I was kind of like, it's fine. It felt a little like eating at any normal like Chuckarama type buffet.
Oh, no.
Like with them, you got the like cutting block with the meat, and you've got like the chicken fingers and the pizza and the dessert spread and the soft serve and like all the components of a typical situation. I didn't love the food. I loved the atmosphere. It's so fun. It's so like the characters, they get up and dance in between. There's music that plays. Goofy's so much fun. You get to go get like a really cute picture with him at the beginning. And then the characters I feel like are really
like
good
Donald
about wandering. It's actually, it's Minnie, Chip and Dale,
I swear I've seen Donald
Goofy.
over there. Maybe
I've never seen Donald there.
Maybe I have in my brain the character dining
Pluto.
used to be at Pixar Place. Because
they did.
Donald.
No, they don't have Donald there. It's Pluto, Chip and Dale, Minnie, and Goofy. And during the holidays, they have been bringing in Clarabelle, which I love Clarabelle. So, so that's the thing. But the clincher to this, the reason I brought this up is because we had a 4 o'clock reservation one time, like the first one of the night, and my opinion of Goofy's Kitchen completely changed. Because getting to go to the buffet when it's like all brand new and fresh and no little kids have touched it, and you can your server is very attentive and bringing you your drinks really quickly and stuff like that, and the characters are really available because not all the tables have been seated yet. I felt like that was a much more worth it experience for me than when we've gone at 6 or 7 at night, because it just felt fresher, and that was important to me. So if you're the kind of person that's like, I don't like buffets because they kind of weird me out a little bit, like me, go at 4, or whatever is the open time. It's usually 4 or 5 depending on the day, and just plan that you're the first reservation of the day. Be there a few minutes early to check in so you're one of the first people seated and going to enjoy that buffet. Sans all the little children under feet really sealed the deal for me. So I will always go to Goofy's Kitchen if it's first thing at dinner service, and that is my spiel about Goofy's Kitchen.
I appreciate it. So generally, character dining, you can get them pretty readily available for the most part. Plaza goes the fastest probably because it's got the smallest window of time that it's available, and it's just like really cute and
Yeah.
colorful and stuff. People tend to grab it
I
quickly.
think a lot of people know it exists a little bit more. I think some
Maybe.
people don't even really realize sometimes that those other character dining options are there. So
So just keep all of those in mind. Those are really great experiences overall.
yeah.
And like Magic Key discount supply, which is great. And all of
Make
that's
sure
important.
you make sure they add those, because
Yes.
one time they didn't ask and we walked away from Goofy's Kitchen,
Oh,
and the next
no.
day Wes was like, "Do they take discounts at Goofy's Kitchen?" And I said, "Yeah," and he's like, "I don't think
Oops.
they did that." Yeah, so we paid for that one for sure. So yeah, make sure you do that. But anyway, it's fun. The holiday ones are really fun. Right now, Storytellers has their characters in special like fall outfits, and Goofy's Kitchen has them in Halloween costumes. And
So if you're going
Christmas even in it.
seasonally, pay attention, because sometimes also
Yeah.
it could be more expensive. So if you were planning on like, a $60 meal and now it's more like $75
yeah.
or something. So just keep that in mind if you're going around the holidays.
Right.
Because you might end up, which it's fun and it's got its own thing, and they have different offerings, more
They
offerings.
actually have better food.
Like cutesy,
Like,
seasonal looking
yeah.
things.
Well, when we went at Christmas, they had like prime rib instead of just like the normal. Like they had upgraded what was being offered in the food department too.
But just if you had been like, oh, I've budgeted in $60, and you get there and you're like, wait, what? So just keep that in mind as well.
yeah. And the other thing to note with that is sometimes when they have seasonal dining, it doesn't drop on time. So if you're there and again you're like, where is Goofy's Kitchen? It's probably because they haven't dropped the Christmas one or the springtime one or whatever is the thing. Right now they have a springtime one, a Halloween one, and a Christmas one that they have all done in the last year. So that's kind of the expected cycle at this point, I think, for that one. So anyway,
That's
again,
characters.
questions about that, feel free to reach out. We also have lots of information on our website about each of those reservations and our reviews of those particular things. So look over those if you have questions about that. But are there other parts of dining that we need to talk about?
Yeah, I think we should talk about dining packages. There are a few different shows that you can get dining packages reserved seating for. So there is Parades, Fantasmic, and World of Color are typically the three ones that have options. So Plaza Inn typically has the Parade dining package. They do it the holidays. They do it during normal seasonal time. It's a prefixed meal. You go in and you pick up your meal. You pay for it ahead of time. They give you a ticket to come back later for reserved seating. The biggest thing to keep in mind about any of these things, though, is if a show is canceled and you've already dined, you do not get a refund.
And we have been burned by that before.
So if you what happened to us is we went to do a parade dining. It ended up getting a little drizzly later that evening, and they canceled the parade for the evening. So we just didn't get anything. We'd done our dining, we had our ticket sitting there that we paid for, and that's just it. It says on the thing, you agree to it, that you
Yeah, we knew
don't
it
get
was
anything.
a risk.
We knew it was a
when we did
risk,
it, yeah.
but just keep that in mind. So parade dining is usually at Plaza. It's usually delicious, and we love the value of the parades. Because it's really not that much more than buying a meal at Plaza with your drink and your dessert and everything. But you get to now have reserved seating that you don't have to wait for later.
One thing to note is you cannot substitute anything on those things. So if the food for the prefix meal is not gonna do it for you, they won't let you just like get fried chicken meal instead or whatever.
And also, if you have little kids, like 3, you have to have a ticket for them as well. If you have to have a ticket for them for the park, you have to have a ticket for them for reserved dining. So even if you're like, normally you would have them eat off your plate because they're 3 and they don't need their whole kids meal, they still need their own dining package if you're wanting them to go in and do that. So that's a little bit of something to think about with little kids. So that's Parades. Fantasmic is a whole nother beast. We have a whole talk about that somewhere.
Somewhere, I'm sure.
But there's 3 different options at 3 different price points for Fantasmic. Right now it's at Zocalo, River Bell, and Blue Bayou. So you go, again, prefixed meal options. Zocalo is the cheapest, River Bell's kind of in the middle, Blue Bayou is the more expensive option. And the seating is all pretty similar. It's all right there in front of the Rivers of America. on the ground seating, which is nice because for Fantasmic, you need to stand everywhere else to watch it except for down in those dining areas. So if sitting is important, this might be a good option for you. You get, again, prefixed meal. You get a ticket to return for the first show or the second show. We prefer the value of the first show. The second show is usually easier to get a spot on your own, so the value is like a little less. So just something to think about when you're booking those. Those are all available in the app as well to just reserve ahead of time.
And even though all the seating is similar in front of Rivers of America, they do definitely give the best straight on view to Blue Bayou and then River Belle and then Zocalo. So you can definitely see from all of those spots. So don't let that be your deciding factor, but you are going to get basically like prime viewing with those higher end packages. So.
And again, any kid that's 3 and over needs their own ticket. The last dining is World of Color. So World of Color has a dessert option, the dessert dining package, and then they also have like often availability at like Storytellers dining, which you do your dining and then they give you a reserved area to stand. It's not like great seating.
It's not that valuable, honestly, because World of Color already has a virtual queue that you can sign up for at noon every day. And those virtual queues put you in standing areas. And so I actually feel like the dining or the viewing area for Storytellers, and sometimes Wine Country has them too, is a little off to the side. It's not that great. And yeah, maybe you don't have to wait quite as long to like come and get you don't have to check in as quick or whatever. Which I would say there's
value to, because by 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, standing hurts.
Yeah, it does. It hurts worse than walking, for sure.
So it's something to consider.
So consider it, but I wouldn't necessarily say of all the things, that's the one that I feel like is the least valuable, important in your day. Unless you're like, I'm already going to eat at Storytellers that night and it's another $15 to do that, then maybe think about it. But don't prioritize that. I don't think.
World of Color dessert party.
That's another story.
Although, it's expensive. It's like $90 a person. Doesn't matter if they're a kid or an adult. There's not a kid price. You get, this is the perk though, you get a seat and a table. And they bring you your plate and it's a bunch of desserts and like crackers and cheese and things like that. So it's not just sweet stuff. It's a little bit of both. They do have like gluten-free options and stuff, which basically just includes more cheese and fruit. Like,
sorry.
So like, but keep that in mind. You also have to pay for it completely ahead of time. It's not like normal reservations where they just put a hold on your credit card. You fully pay for it up front.
And you have to cancel, I think, within 24 hours on that one in order to get your refund.
You arrive, you sit, you can watch World of Color and sit there and eat your platter, plus you get 2 drinks. Usually includes some amount of alcoholic drinks for adults or like glow cubes in drinks for kids. So there's like, there's value there as far as it is, but it's a little bit hard to like eat it all before they're kind of like moving you along. Like it's kind of a quick little situation.
Like both times
and you're never going to eat it all either.
Both times that we've done it weren't we second show. And sometimes I feel like first show has a little bit better of a situation because I feel like they get a little more lead time. Like you can show up, check in, sit down, and have a little more time before the show starts. And I feel like the second one, it's a little bit more of like a get everyone out, clean the tables off, bring everyone in. And by the time you're seated, it's like time for the show. So I almost wonder with that first show that we've never done if it would feel a little more like less panic eating, because I feel like there's a little bit of like panic eating.
But we also spend a lot of time taking photos and doing all those things that maybe if you were just going to enjoy it yourself, you'd go and sit and start eating
your food. Maybe we're weird.
I think it's us. But those are kind of your parade dining or all of your dining packages that include experiences. Again, our most valuable one would probably be parades. Then Fantasmic, if you've never seen Fantasmic before, especially, we find a lot more value in it. And World of Color is more like if you're feeling bougie,
it's like
or on a date
splurge.
night, and kids big enough, like some of the chairs even are a little like spindly and like bar stooly and different things where like sometimes, like, if you've got, like, a bunch of little kids, like, just no.
Don't do it. Don't think it's a good idea.
Get a nighttime reservation at Lamplight Lounge and have dinner and sit down there on the side.
Do literally anything.
There's a million other options.
Take them to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. do the character dining. Do 2 character dinings.
To spend $90
Don't take
a
them to
person.
World of Color dessert party. They don't want it, and you don't want to be there. Like it's not it.
That's all the like dining, sit down, take time, take money, all that sort of stuff that happens when it comes to dining. You don't have to do literally any of that.
No. So this is where quick service becomes your best friend. We've had times where we've gone on trips and haven't done any dining, like sit down dining
yes.
at all. It's sort of like a maybe once a trip, maybe twice a trip if it's a long one or whatever, and everything else is quick service. And by quick service, we mean anywhere that you can mobile order, anywhere that you can walk up to a counter and grab something and go sit down at. Plaza Inn, theirs is technically quick service in the evening because you can walk up and it's basically cafeteria style. So there's tons of options that don't involve long wait times, long, expensive situations. You can feed your family. I mean, it's still not cheap. It's theme park food, but you can feed your family for $70 for all of you or $40 for all of you, depending on your size. It's usually like 70 for us.
We're usually more around 40 or 50.
Yeah. So depending on your family size, it's basically going to be washed out to be more like 10 to 15 a person instead of 60 a person or whatever, like some of these others we've been talking about.
And there's a little bit more availability to do things like share meals or, get snacks in between, or like, even if you're not like, I much prefer, especially when it comes to Disneyland food, because it's expensive, I would rather go get more food later than get everybody their own big giant meal that we all leave half of, because that sucks.
Which happens
you can't take it
so
home.
often. Like you
can't
see
save
people...
it for later.
I know.
So like, if you are a little bit like, I wonder if my kids will eat their entire plate of pasta by themselves, like just order more later. People are still hungry. You can order more. Don't order everybody their $12 pasta plate.
Don't get everyone their own dessert.
They don't. Yeah. Just don't.
It's
like,
not...
just think about it a little bit more. Be a little more like
conservative,
conscientious of that, because you don't have to buy everybody a meal.
Right.
So, and you know your family. You know who's going to eat a lot and who is going to share.
Right.
They have really great kids meal options. You can order kids meals for anybody. Like when you're mobile ordering, you don't have to just be ordering a kids meal for your 10-year-old. We often I like the chicken tender kids meal because it's like 2 tenders and fries instead of 3 tenders and fries, and it's like,
and you get a drink
$4 cheaper, and you get a drink. So sometimes if you're somebody that's like, I am not that hungry, or I've got a teenager that's not that hungry, or whatever your options are, you can do that for adults. Don't feel like you can't. So you can do whatever you want when it comes to mobile ordering.
Right. So some of the places that we suggest for quick service type food, there's a few that are kind of our go-tos in the parks. And I would say that's Pizza Planet. Kids always like Pizza Planet. I know a lot of people turn their nose up at Pizza Planet because it's like not the best pizza in the whole world. But you know what? It's theme park pizza.
And they have good pasta.
And they have good pasta. And my kids love their little kids meal pizzas. They're the same everywhere in the park, but they can go refill their own drinks at Pizza Planet. So you get a little bit more value out of that aspect of your meal. There's tons of seating. It's a little more themed. It feels a little more fun. So we love Pizza Planet. Red Rose Tavern is a great option for all times of day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Sometimes we've done breakfast and then come back for dinner.
Yeah.
At the same day.
Yeah. They do close a little bit earlier than some of the other places. Like I feel like they're done for the night by like 9.
Is it because of fireworks?
Maybe because they have to close Fantasyland down. So, but you're talking like burgers and fries and chicken tenders and
pizza, flatbread.
They're flatbread pizzas. If you're looking for a pizza in the park, it's a little bit more of an upgraded pizza from like Pizza Planet.
And it's big, again,
you can
like
share
shareable.
for sure. So there's that one we like. Bengal barbecue is a go-to for us just because you get a little more protein and it feels a little more like a hot meal.
Healthy feeling meal, especially if you've been eating a lot of like fried chicken tenders and stuff. You've got grilled skewers, you've got vegetable skewers. There's hummus plates with like I know my husband often likes to get it's like 3 different types of hummus with like all the different vegetable sticks and stuff. It's like there's a lot of options.
So that's a good one. Golden Horseshoe is a good standby, although I feel like their menu's been a little more limited lately. But that's a basic like chicken tenders type place for your kids.
Galactic Grill is also like has good burgers and fries. That's always like really basic food for us.
And Galactic Grill sometimes offers a little bit more variety in terms of seasonal stuff. Like they'll have a really good adult burger.
Yeah.
Or like a salad. They've had some good looking
They
salads
also have
there.
delicious breakfast. They have their breakfast burrito there is delicious. They also have a breakfast sandwich that people
They have the
really
little
like.
French toast dipper
They're
stick
like
things.
funnel cake fry kind of with syrup sort of things.
So that's a good one. Hungry Bear is closed now, but will be reopening soon as Hungry Bear Barbecue Jamboree. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So that one's a good option for families. We assume it will still be a good. It has tons of
I
seating.
think they're
again.
going to be opening up. They've just released a new menu, and there's going to have more things like pulled pork sandwich. It's not just like burgers and fries as much. They're going to have a little more barbecue options and stuff. So
That'll be
hopefully
fun.
it will be good and be something different. So those are kind of our favorite like Disneyland options. I know that people really like Docking Bay 7 back in Disney in Star Wars and the Ronto Wrap place and stuff. We don't really go back there.
Docking Bay has occasionally had a really good meal that I enjoy, but other times I've gone there and I feel like their food is quite spicy overall. And I like spice, but it's like, I don't know, for your whole family, it's not necessarily the most crowd pleasing food. It's a fun atmosphere. It feels like more unique and like you're in Star Wars area, and so that's kind of a fun experience meal, but I wouldn't say it's
Maybe
like
not
my
the most
favorite
like crowd
choice. And it's
pleasing.
quite expensive.
Yeah.
Again, everything's like toward $20.
Kind of like Tiana's Palace also,
Yes.
which is again kind of like specific palate, a little more expensive, all those sorts of things. One place that in Toontown though, they have Daisy's Cafe, which has really basic kid food like they have pizza flopovers. They have hot dogs back there. Maybe
I
not,
don't think
but
so. They should.
They should. But a little more again basic foods. There's a lot of options. Mobile order. Usually try to get on a mobile order 30 minutes to an hour before you're actually wanting to sit down to
At least,
eat,
especially during prime parts of the day, like
especially
lunch and dinner times.
because it just doesn't hurt to get your order, and you can always move it around if you're like, we're not ready yet or we're more hungry. Sometimes you can bump it sooner. But you can always push it, but sometimes moving it earlier is a little harder.
Yeah.
But plan ahead a little bit, get those things scheduled so that when you are hungry and you are ready to eat, you don't have to wait for
Another hour,
Those
yeah.
mobile order, those standby lines for food is just...
If there's a mobile order available, do not get in the standby line. Ever. There's never a reason.
I've
that I
actually
can
once or
think of.
twice felt like the wait times were out farther than I wanted to be, and we wanted to eat right away. And I would go get in the line, and I would sit and kind of like refresh the wait,
And still get a mobile
still
order
get a
before.
sooner time. And I would mobile order and go pick up my food and see the people that I was originally standing with still waiting in line.
Yeah.
So,
So anywhere that's
just do whatever you can to mobile order. If
honestly, if there's no mobile orders available, choose a different place to go. Like
Not kidding.
There's literally no reason to stand in a 40-minute food queue. There's just not. Your kids will hate you. You'll hate everyone. And you won't even like your food when it comes because you'll be so bugged. I am like I become so hangry when it comes to that type of like trying to access your food struggle that I have had. Britton has witnessed more than one meltdown of mine in theme parks where I have like freaked out because you hit like a wall of just like frustration with how difficult it is to just feed your people. So just don't do it. Mobile order, and you can mobile order literally every quick service. Everywhere we just mentioned has mobile order. Use it. And then over in DCA, some of our favorites, we like Boardwalk. That one actually doesn't have mobile order, but
it's like cafeteria style.
Yeah.
You can always walk in and just grab food
your
and leave.
pizza and pasta. They've got good kids meals again for a good price, and they can refill their drinks there as well. So Boardwalk's good. We got Smoke Jumpers. That's like got your basic burgers and fries type stuff. Pim is always a go-to. Pim Test Kitchen for us. They've got the giant pretzels, the
and
fancy
the Coke
sandwiches,
freestyle machine, so you can refill.
your refill machine. Yeah, so
Lots of seating and stuff.
yeah, so that's a great. Pim's is actually one I would prioritize to happen at some point on your trip. And sometimes we do a breakfast and a lunch there at some point because they have good breakfast choices and a good dinner menu. It's not a huge menu, but it's unique items, and most of it's
And
like
really
pretty
normal
basic
food,
when
like
it comes down
chicken
to it.
sandwiches.
Yeah.
They have a pasta for the kids.
That's like a
They
meatball
have
in it.
A
and-
taco salad there right now. They have that chimichanga. Like they have a good variety.
And
of
breakfast is
things.
like French toast or
Yeah.
like toast and eggs and bacon
or you can get a giant pretzel and a choco smash.
like we do for breakfast. So Pim's Pim's has tons of return times, like
Yes.
constant. You can always get a quick service return time.
Pretty regularly. We also really like to go to Flo's in Carsland. That's like total classic diner food. Again,
Yes.
burgers. We really like their club sandwich. So really good location, indoor and outdoor seating. Great place to cool off. So that's Flo's, but then also down in San Francisco, they have, with their all their stuff that they've had, they have all the same restaurants, but I feel like they've all been updated and upgraded.
New menus.
They've got new menus. So you can get Mexican food, you can get Chinese food, you can get normal,
you can get bread bowls.
And they also have Ghirardelli's down there. There's just lots of different choices.
Honestly,
right there.
the worst place in DCA for food is the pier. There's no food down on that pier. You can get a churro or some fried chicken in a box or a hot dog, and everything else is not there. So if you are planning to head down to the pier for the evening, don't be like, we'll grab some dinner when we're down there, because you'll have to hike.
You could go to Boardwalk, but it's kind
still
of on
like
the far side.
Yeah. So that's definitely the most like dearth of. There's just
food.
Nothing there.
But speaking of carts,
Yeah.
There's obviously churro carts and hot dog carts and corn dog carts, like all over the place. There's also a couple of different places that are like markets within the park, so you'll see them every once in a while. They're really small, and they often have like just like a big bin of like ice with like little treats inside. So they have things like the big pickles. They have fruit cut up in cups. Sometimes
like
they have
grapes
like
in a
stuff
baggie, or
like apples with like caramel dipping sauce sometimes, or strawberries with chocolate sauce. They
pineapple
have
slices, like big pineapple
the big
slices
spears.
you can eat.
Yeah. They also have things like just like quick drinks and all that sort
And
of
they also
stuff
have
that you
things.
would
I've
need.
seen things like Baby Bell cheeses and
Yeah.
like some proteiny type
and
things.
fruit.
mixed
They
in.
also have things like little cuties and bananas sometimes, and things like that. That if you're just like, we need a little like.
Yeah, and we've definitely
healthy
utilized those places. My kids have like I've gone there and grabbed just like a baggie of grapes or a whatever kind of thing. So there's a few of those. One I know is always there on Main Street, kind of outside the Starbucks, the Market House. There's usually one there, kind of by the lockers. There's one over in Adventureland, kind of in the Bengal barbecue seating area, sort of across from Jungle Cruise. There's usually one over kind of by Big Thunder, that area up kind of like where the chimichangas get sold. There's sometimes one over on the side by Haunted Mansion, like between Critter Country and Haunted Mansion.
And sometimes they have like littler carts that are more like ice
Pop-up,
cream
yeah.
and
Cotton candy and popcorn.
yeah, like all
drinks.
those sort of things.
But
Like
the ones
churro
with the
carts
ice in front, those are the ones that
have
a
lot more of the fruit options.
They also have that one, the Good Boy Market back in Toontown now that always has that. And then in DCA, you've got a market right in the front, and you've got one at the front of Carsland and one in Hollywoodland. Where else is there one? That might be the three.
That sounds about right. The other thing you shouldn't sleep on is, so Boot and Bakery, they make their sourdough bread there every day. It's like, if you can go in there and do like a little tour and watch them make the bread, and they talk about how their sourdough starters like 100 years old. Like, it's like,
It's actually like, I love
you don't want to know
sourdough.
about the sourdough starter.
I get a little freaked out by the like named sourdough starter situation.
But
I don't know.
It's like delicious sourdough, and they have loaves, and at Christmas time they always have like the Christmas tree loaves that are like pull apart rolls of sourdough. So even things like that, you can get like just like a quick little snack of some fresh bread, and they often have those loaves up at the front market in DCA. They will have a couple of the loaves up there, so you can just grab and make a little.
I think they're what, like $10 or something.
Yeah, they're
and
not
they're
bad.
this
They're
big,
giant.
and you can literally share them with
Snack on
6
them
people.
all day.
Yeah, like hand out a piece to each of your kids, and
Yeah.
it's a great, like, not too awful for you, midday situation or evening snack.
So that's all kind of your food options all the way around. People always ask like, what do you budget for food? How do you afford? I mean, it ranges so widely
Because of all these things.
If you're buying snacks, depends on if you're only eating one meal in the park and you had breakfast at your hotel. And I mean, there's so many different things. So like budgeting is just like not even easy
Everyone's
to explain.
so different in what they're needing and wanting. But yeah.
So you'll want to look around a little bit and figure out, what it's better to actually think about like what's your budget and maybe plan the rest of your meals around that a little bit. If you're like, we don't want to spend $50 a person at sit down dining, don't do any sit down dining. Just don't do it. If you want to be spending more like $50 all day on a person, which would include 3 full meals and a snack, like you can do that. But if not, what's important is maybe booking a hotel that has free breakfast and everybody goes in very full and you don't need anything until lunchtime. Or,
or like heading to the McDonald's on your way back to the hotel for lunch instead of getting it in the park or whatever. There's definitely choices if food isn't a priority or your budget, you have constraints that are making that not possible. The other thing we didn't even broach at all is downtown Disney. There's tons of locations where you can eat in downtown Disney.
All new. It's got so much new stuff.
Yeah. So we won't go into that here.
No.
But you can look. You can make those same reservations on the Disneyland app. So just look into that. And there's also some places. There's like a Jamba Juice and a what's the pretzel place called? Wetzel's Pretzels.
Is it an Auntie Anne's or is it
No, it's a Wetzel's. There's some ice cream shops. There's, there's other things, churro carts and corn dog carts and hot dog carts and whatever.
But then there's like some sit down dining and, new Din Tai Fung and all these, there's a lot of options. You can also leave property. There's restaurants at the Disneyland Hotel. There's Tangaroa Terrace and Trader Sam's. There's restaurants at Pixar Place. You can go anywhere. You can leave wherever and go eat wherever. You don't have to be staying on property to go eat in a property hotel. So just know that you have that availability and that flexibility.
Yep. And if you have questions or if you're staying at a specific hotel and you're like, what's around me, message us and we can tell you what our go-tos are for that area. Because I feel like we've stayed in most of the general areas and could at least give you a heads up on like what to expect. So anyway, that's that. I thought this would be a short episode for us because it was like, it's just food. But like, I guess we just really like food.
Well, food's important. And it's a big part of like planning your day. And you can really screw up a lot of your day just trying to feed people, which is frustrating. You don't want to waste a bunch of time.
And waste a bunch of your budget.
And money.
Just feeding people.
So.
I mean, I've caught myself spending $4 on a bag of chips because I'm desperate in there with my kids. And I wouldn't have had to be if I had other plans. So I don't know, just being prepared, being thoughtful about what your situation is and understanding that just because everyone is doing character dining or just because everyone is, making reservations 60 days in advance doesn't necessarily mean that that's for you, and that's fine.
No. I've been to Disneyland several times with my family. We have done one character dining experience ever.
And we do it more often.
And they do it more often.
Because my kids just really look forward to it. And so it's a big priority for us. But
the thing is, I think my kids would enjoy it. If I took them and said, we're going here, they'd be like, sounds great. But they also really enjoy hanging out at Pim's and seeing the Avengers show that happens in the middle of the day. So like your priority is so different. And that's totally fine. Yep.
So maybe sit down with your family, especially if this is your once in a lifetime trip. Sit down with your family beforehand. Maybe watch some YouTube clips. Magic Journeys is one that does tons of food reviews and things like that. You could go through and watch basically every restaurant and go through and make a list of what's important to each person. Because if princess dining or character dining is really important to one child or one whatever, maybe prioritize that, but maybe don't. Like, there's just a lot to pick from and a lot of ways to make everyone happy. Yeah. So just prepare. That's the moral of the story. And learn how to mobile order. Attach your credit card to your app, which we will talk about in another episode, but learn how to mobile order and
if you learn nothing else from us, honestly, I would say it's mobile ordering.
And
you will waste the most
We've said
time
this forever.
And the most money and the most frustration and the most, it will, if you can't mobile order your food.
I can't even explain how frustrating it can feel when you're in there in the moment. But people will say, what is your absolute number one tip for someone going to Disneyland? And it's always
mobile order.
Figure out how to mobile order because it literally will change your life. That is all. I can't even, I bear my testimony of this. It's so important. Don't mess this up.
Amen.
Amen.